Welcome to Charlotte Sports Report. I'm Dalton Beard.
And I'm Justin Jeffers.
The NFL preseason is among us. Find out how long it took Eli Manning to record his first turnover. That and quarterback Andy Dalton's contract extension.
Also, we're going to have a look at the Paul George injury as well as the moves going on in Cleveland to try to wrap up K-Love.
All that and more, guys. Charlotte Sports Report. Stay tuned.
This is Charlotte Sports Report, episode Beta 3, recorded Monday, August 4th, 2014. Preseason kickoff.
The NFL preseason kicked off yesterday in the inaugural Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. The New York Giants defeated the Buffalo Bills 17-13, and Justin, football is among us.
It is, and it was great to watch that game last night. You know, just to get back behind the TV, get my favorite spot on the couch and watch them crack some pads, it was awesome.
Now going into that first game, a new experimental rule they're going to use for these first 2 weeks of the preseason. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, they're going to spot the ball on the 15-yard line for PATs, making it about a 22-yard field goal attempt. If you do decide to go for two, you get the ball on the 2-yard line where it was originally spotted.
Yeah.
Also, the goalposts are being raised another 5 feet this year.
Right, and now they are raised up to 35 feet, and in 1970 they were only 10 feet tall.
That's right.
So we're coming a long way. We're all, constantly trying to provide and make the game a little bit better. I like what I've seen with the new rule. The only thing I did not like was the no discretion. There is no discretion as far as, if you're going to go for the 2-point conversion or not. It kind of takes the idea of the fake away.
Yeah, it sure does. It totally it eliminates the fake.
Yeah, it really does.
That's why I think it's going to be a 2-week experimental rule. They're not even going to use it through the whole preseason, and they'll meet in their owners' meetings and see what they say, after the season. So.
Giants winning last night 17-13, going into Eli Manning, his worst season of his career last year with 27 interceptions, 7 fumbles lost. And last night it only took 5 minutes and 34 seconds for Eli to have his first turnover of the preseason, by the way of a fumble. And it just seems that it's going to be that same trend for Eli. I hope it's not.
Yeah, Eli's had a rough year last year. And
you really seen a lot of this here, just throwing into triple coverage, the guy's trying to make a play. And, I felt bad for Eli last year.
I did.
A lot of time his team was coming from behind and he's just trying to make a play.
Yeah, and it felt like, a lot of those games, they were in it until it was like consecutive turnovers.
Right, and that'll kill any team.
Oh, yeah.
That really will.
In the NFL, they're going to get points out of those turnovers most of the time. And to have 2 in a row is horrible. To have 3 in a row is a game ender. And
when you talk about a guy like Eli Manning, he obviously has the pedigree, his last name, father Archie, brother Peyton. A lot of people think that Eli should not be in contention for an elite quarterback. Is he a part of that elite level? I say he is. 2 Super Bowls, the guy knows how to get it done. And in both of those years, the Giants had to come in and play that wild card game. They needed to play the play-in game to get in the playoffs. And it just seems like when this guy gets in the postseason, he knows how to turn it on.
Absolutely. They get playoff hot, and you kind of got to feel bad for Tom Coughlin. Is this guy going to have a heart attack? Because it's like, they can go 5 or 6 games and look like they couldn't make the playoffs to save their life. Then they get on a streak, and it's Super Bowl bound, knocking out, the 18-0 teams.
Right, and that year going into the Super Bowl, I was so shocked, because it was just a great story. You got the Patriots coming off the best record ever in NFL league history, and then you've got the Giants who had to play the play-in game, had to play the wild card game, and there's just something about that team. When Eli gets in the postseason, he's contagious. His play is contagious, and I feel like that really affects every other player on the team around him.
Yeah, he really gets focused in, it seems like, and he just totally dedicates himself to the game plan. And that's the whole family. Archie did that, Peyton does that, and they get in that study hall and they study and they dissect every aspect of the game, and when they come to the playoffs, they're ready to go.
Staying on the topic of quarterbacks, this breaking just today, the Cincinnati Bengals signed quarterback Andy Dalton to a 6-year, $115 million extension. And Justin, Andy Dalton, you talk about a guy who's got consistency issues, you have to put his name near the top of the list.
Yeah, for sure. But the one thing that I do like about Andy Dalton is when they started bringing him in, the consistency of the team seemed to turn around.
Right.
They got that Monday night game. It was like their first Monday night game in so many years, and Andy was the quarterback. He's taken them to the playoffs. Yeah, and he just keeps a consistent level of team unity. He's a great leader, but it's his skill set that might need a little bit more work.
And you go back to the weapons he has, as you've seen in that highlight there. A.J. Green, what a magnificent target he's got. And then you bring in a guy like Gio Brevard coming from North Carolina. They've had him there. He just had his rookie season last year. I feel like he's on the brink of becoming a top NFL running back. He definitely has the skill set and the hands to catch the ball out of the backfield. Really excited for Cincinnati. Not so sure if Andy Dalton is worth that 115 mark.
That's a lot of money.
A couple of stats to think of when you talk about Andy Dalton. Under no pressure, the guy goes 65.9 completion percentage and a QBR of 91.6. When he has pressure, that number falls dramatically. 38.8% completion rating with a 50% QBR.
Wow.
And, you talk about those numbers, that's really day and night.
Oh, yeah.
And, him being at a place like Cincinnati, the weapons he has, I feel like him getting this money will boost him, especially with a young quarterback on his heels now. They picked up A.J. McCarron in the 5th round of the draft, which makes me kind of feel like A.J. maybe might not be a long-term deal for the Bengals right now, but coming into training camp, he looks good. He looks great. Hopefully he can learn a lot from Andy Dalton. Not saying Andy Dalton's not a great quarterback. I just feel like he's not worth $115 million.
Well, the one thing I have to say about Cincinnati, whatever they do on offense, you got to remember they got a stellar defense. Defensive line, Geno Atkins, the best defensive lineman in the game.
Yeah, how could you forget James Harrison?
Yeah, I mean these guys are stacked on the defensive side, and I think that they're going to bring the wood on the defensive side and kind of make things a little bit easier on Andy. But I'd love to see Andy a little bit more consistent with his skill set mostly.
Now, Justin, you're a Panther fan. You got a glimpse of the Bills last night. Now, what do you feel, or how do you feel as Carolina goes into their first preseason game playing Buffalo Friday?
I felt like we didn't get to see a lot of their defense, which is what I wanted to see. They had a lot of their starters sitting out.
I think Kiko Alonso, the middle linebacker, is a great addition for them. Had over 100 tackles last year. Snubbed to the Pro Bowl, but he's definitely a defender to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he is a serious hitter. He brings the wood too. And I think that it'll be a great test for us because the Bills are really putting some stuff together. They're really trying to right the ship there. Yeah. They have been for years, and I think they've made some good moves, and they're going to be a great first preseason test for us.
Speed seems to be the trend for Buffalo, especially bringing a guy like Sammy Watkins in. I'm looking forward to Friday. I'm sure a lot of Panther fans are as well. Get that first glimpse. Guys, when we return, we're going to move on to NBA action. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Charlotte Sports Report.
I'm the station manager here at the Carolina School of Broadcasting, and this is our on-air studio for our student-run radio station. You may know some of our graduates.
I'm Mark Seidel. I'm a producer and board op on WFNZ.
Brandon Pollock, go by Brandon Chase, and I do afternoons for WKQC.
Travis Hancock, I'm the producer for the Mac Attack Morning Show.
Hey, I'm Kate Hall, and I am on air with WKQC K104.7.
Spend your life in HD, only at the Carolina School of Broadcasting.
Carolina School of Broadcasting, go!
The NBA offseason has been full of surprises and full of highlights. However, we may have seen the low point just 2 days ago when Paul George breaking his leg at the Team USA scrimmage, as you can see it here. Justin, as we can see Paul coming up to defend a shot, when he lands, he comes down all on that right leg, and it just gives way, and I really hate to see this. You can see it as it's in slow-mo. Goes to contest the shot. And right there.
It was just horrible. His leg got pinned right there against the goal, and it was, if you haven't seen it, it's gruesome, and I don't want to watch it again, that's for sure. Yeah,
definitely painful to watch. I put it right up there with the Kevin Ware injury from Louisville. Also, another notable injury you could talk about in the same sense, maybe the Joe Theismann injury. And it was very, very difficult to watch. And, looking at how the Pacers are standing at this point, David West is only going to get a year older. Roy Hibbert has an option to opt out of his contract next year. Your two youngest, best players were Paul George and Lance Stevenson. Lance is now here in Charlotte, and now with Paul George's latest injury, he's going to have to sit out that entire year for sure, the entire next season, and maybe even half of the next before he's back and able to contribute the way he did for the Pacers.
Yeah, and that team was unstable from the get-go, I thought.
To me, they just take such a huge step back now. You go from being one of the top teams in the East, other than Miami. I feel like Miami was probably the only better team in the East than the Pacers.
For sure.
And now for Larry Bird as the GM of that team in the front office, you really got a lot of questions to answer this offseason, and there's not a lot of time left to do it as far as making changes go.
Well, that's why he makes the big bucks, and it's up to him now to right that ship, because with PG hurt like that, that could be a career-ending injury.
Right, and it is your star player. You hate to see that. I really hated to see it for Paul. Paul George is one of my favorite players in the league, just 23 years old, and I feel like he's done so much. I feel like he really emerged as a player in the finals, in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, and since then has just upped his game little by little, week in and week out. I think he's a humble guy. I really just hate to see him get that type of injury, because it's not like we're talking about a sprained ankle here. This is a legitimate break. If we could bring that highlight up again, a legitimate break, it's going to take a long time to come back from that. It really will.
Yeah, and the thing about it, the one bright spot is these guys have the best medical care in the world, and hopefully, my prayers go out to him and his family, because this is his livelihood. This is all he's ever done.
Right.
At least he's got some of the best medical care in the world.
And you can see the reaction from the players on the bench right here.
Everybody.
It's really tough to watch. One thing, though, that I did like from the situation, Coach K, as you seen him right there at the end of that clip, he's the head coach for Team USA. Shortly after that injury, he came onto the court and said that was the end of the scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
Out of respect for Paul and his family, I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that was an awesome thing to see, because you don't see that very often, in any level of sports where they'll do something like that. But
right.
That was definitely, I don't think anybody wanted to play after that.
And since the Dream Team of 1992, that legendary Dream Team that won it all, Team USA has sought out the talent of the NBA, and they've had great success there. This is really the first bad injury that we've seen since that inaugural 1992 year, where it was just so huge for Team USA. Since then, this is really the only big setback, but that's exactly what it is, Justin. It is a huge setback. And as a GM, as an NBA owner, how do you relate to your players and kind of talk to them when they want to go play for Team USA? Because it's hard to tell a player not to do that. All of them grew up watching that 1992 team. It's a dream of theirs.
Yeah, and it's not like, something that you're going to put in contracts. You remember Ben Roethlisberger wrecking a motorcycle, and all of a sudden no NFL players can ride motorcycles. It's not like that. He was training for his job.
Right.
And that's the sad thing about it is, if you're going to ask these guys not to participate in that, then I feel like, they're just sitting around. They're waiting for the season to come back around. They want to train. They want to be with their friends. They want to be with their people. And that would just, I think that would be more of a hurt to the game than help.
I think a basketball player is only going to get better in the offseason by doing just that, playing basketball. However, from a GM standpoint, I can see where a lot of people feel bothered by this, because, this is free. They do not get paid to play for Team USA. It's more of a pride issue for a lot of these players, but it's a big deal. And, it really is a freak accident. I give Larry Bird, mad props for coming out and saying that this could have happened to anybody, because it really could have. It's hard to predict if and when things like this are going to happen, but unfortunately it did for Paul George, and I'm really anxious to see how that shakes up the Eastern Conference next year. And, I really hate to say this, but Charlotte now is in a better position in the East as far as the playoff picture goes. As this offseason has progressed, I've seen them being a top 4 team in the East. Now I'll have to move them to 3 with all of this going on with the Pacers. Moving on, talking about trade talks with Kevin Love. That seems to be the biggest issue of the offseason. Andrew Wiggins' Cavs uniform, his rookie jersey, the number 21, has been taken off the NBA store. You can go to NBA.com, go to the NBA store. It is now no longer available. His jersey is no longer available for sale. So that, to me, screams trade package. When you look at Andrew Wiggins, and you also talk about a guy who they took number 1 overall last year, also from Canada, Anthony Bennet. Anthony Bennet was pulled out of the Toronto program just last week. And it just sounds like the front office of the Cavs, they're trying to preserve these guys, so to speak, to get ready for that trade for Kevin Love. I just don't know if it's the best choice right now for the Cavs. You know, you pick up a guy like LeBron, you already got a star player in Kyrie. I feel like Varejão's a solid defender, but without giving a guy like Andrew Wiggins a chance, and really a guy like Anthony Bennet a chance, a lot of guys want to label him as a bust. He really hasn't had the opportunity to shine.
Yeah, and it immediately started, like you said, throwing up the red flags. What's going on? You know, everybody knows that they're trying to move some stuff around and make some room to try to make that move for K-Love, and it's an immediate red flag, and it makes you wonder, what are they going to do? You know,
Yeah.
It could get really crazy over the next month.
You look at a guy like K-Love, led the league in double-doubles last year. Is he worth 2 number 1 overall picks? I'd say the guy is. It's just highly unlikely, you know, for a team to really invest that much into a player that you take number 1, you know, 2 number 1 straight picks in Andrew Wiggins and Anthony Bennet. You know, you really don't give those guys a chance to settle in. And if I were the Cavs, aging LeBron is going to have to play the 4 role. So what are you going to do with K-Love, say, 5 years down the road? You got a guy like Andrew Wiggins who could learn behind the greatest basketball player in the game right now. I guess it's just a wishy-washy situation.
Yeah, when this stuff happens in any sport, I feel like you're putting all the pressure on the player to perform,
Right.
and that can really backfire.
It can, especially when the guys are as young as Andrew Wiggins and Anthony Bennet. But NBA offseason has been great. It's got me excited. Yeah, moving on, just a quick clip here. Danny, if you want to roll this. This was from Alabama Fan Day just yesterday. The fans waited. Some guy said he waited for 104 hours. Wow. Look at this. Look at that 40. Look at the guy in front.
They're out there. Hey, look at, he's getting it. Woo!
Yeah, these fans are crazy, and I know they're as excited about college football as I am. August 4th today, August 30th, the Chick-fil-A kickoff. We'll be here to cover it all that following Monday. Justin, it is among us. The best time of the year falls here.
I'm ready. It's football season. We got plenty more coming from Charlotte Sports Report for you guys.
Right, guys. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We will be back next Monday on Charlotte Sports Report.